Hello there everybody, welcome to a little video about all of the changes that were made to items in the Binding of Isaac Repentance. There's a lot of them, for the record, so this video may end up running a little bit long, but I wanted to kind of go through the changelog for Repentance and see what changed from Afterbirth Plus, just in terms of the items in the game. There's been a lot of item balancing, it's been a little bit controversial. I want to walk through them, I want to, kind of talk about which ones I really like, if we want to hop into the game and see how certain things interact in there as well, we're going to do that. So it might be a little bit of a long video, but hopefully you guys can see all of the changes that have been made to items. Let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. I'm going to tell you I'm going to be pro-nerfing during this, so if you are not pro-nerfing, don't be an asshole in the comments. That's all I'll say. So without further ado, let's get going. So we're just going to start at the top, and we're going to get on through these. So basic shooting familiars now fire at a increased rate to match their rate of fire from the original game. So this is every 22 frames now instead of every 30 frames. What this essentially means is all familiars got buffed, and they're much better in Repentance. And I've actually noticed this already. They're much better. Most forms of player creep now deal damage ticks at a significantly increased rate. This buffs a lot of stuff. Lemon Party, Holy Water, a chunk of items. Those doing more damage is good. Familiars that mimic Isaac's movement, such as Shade, Papa Fly, Obsessed Fan, they now follow Isaac more closely. A 0.66 second delay down from 2. This is a huge buff for these items. I still don't really love, this kind of familiar, but those are some big buffs to those. We'll have to get those in game and see how they interact a little bit more. Ares now prevents receiving contact damage if ramming and killing enemies at full speed. This is a monumental change to what, in my opinion, is actually a really terrible item in Afterbirth Plus. Having basically iframes from killing enemies, that's crazy. That's really crazy. Huge. Aquarius now synergizes with tier effects. Also wacky, right? I mean, we're in the buffs right now. Once we get to the nerfs, it's going to be a little bit scarier. But Aquarius synergizing with tier effects is interesting. Since what would that even look like? That's one that we might have to hop in game and see what's going on with it. Sissy Longlegs now charms enemies upon contact. Sinvicta fans will be very happy. Little Sissy Longlegs buff. Black Powder's Pentagram can now damage flying enemies. This was one of the big issues with this item because it just had zero, reaction to half of the enemies in the game. So that's fun to see that buff. Book of Secrets now avoids giving mapping effects the player already has. So if they have all mapping effects, it grants I Can See Forever. That's a huge buff. Really good. Book of Secrets is completely useless if you have something like, the Mind. Or even map, right? So that's interesting. White Poop from Hallowed Ground is now more durable, similar to Golden Poop. So when you stand in the aura, Isaac's damage is now also increased by 25%, and the tiers gain a homing effect. Hallowed Ground was horrible. So this is actually a really big buff, and one of my big issues with it was the fact that you would accidentally destroy the poop, right? So now to make it similar to Golden Poop, where it takes a lot more shots to accidentally destroy it, that's a really big buff. That's a good item. Cursed Eye can now shoot a maximum of 5 shots instead of 4. Look, people have their opinions about Cursed Eye. I think Cursed Eye is a very good item, even in Afterbirth Plus. This makes it a legitimate DPS upgrade. Like, it is in Afterbirth Plus as well, but this is now a very much so greater DPS upgrade. So I'm actually really fascinated by this change, and I can't wait to find Cursed Eye. I haven't picked it up yet. Bloodshot Eye now blocks enemy shots, increased shot speed and rate of fire, and now only shoots when lined up with enemies. Bloodshot Eye was completely worthless, so any buff to it is good. Telepathy for Dummies now increases range, roughly twice as much as a regular range upgrade. This is just to make the homing better, right? Homing tiers are bad most of the time in Isaac. Having more range on them allows them to have a little bit more coverage. So I think this is a good change. Magneto is now capable of opening chests from a small distance, but not lock chests. This is a really good change, and it makes this item actually interesting to pick up, because now, you know, those chests that are over on rocks that you need flight for or something like that, it'll now pull them towards you and then open them, which is that really makes the item much more useful. I kind of like that. Strange Attractor tiers now pull enemies in with less force, but increase in magnetization as they travel. Interesting. Strange Attractor was bad, so this does appear to be a small buff to it, to make it less chaotic, but more of a gradual pull, until eventually it increases. I think that's interesting. Holy Water has been buffed, and Holy Water we saw in the, I'm just gonna get us back up to the top here. There's a lot of changes, fair warning. Holy Water's been buffed. You now throw it, similar to Bob's Brain. The puddle then freezes enemies that come in contact with it while continuing to damage them like before. They made it actually good. It is pretty good early on in the game, at least. It's pretty good. Loses some of its value later, but still, that's a huge buff to it. Game-breaking bug is now also thrown. We saw this in the blog post as well. You double tap to throw it, and then it re-rolls enemies and pickups it comes in contact with, and then returns in the next room. So it's kind of a small one-time use D20 in each room, which can actually, I mean, you can do some very fascinating game breaks with that. I'm excited to play around with it. Charm of the Vampire comes with a small damage upgrade equal to Stigmata or Meat. I mean, that's just great, right? Charm of the Vampire was okay as is. Now it's a damage upgrade as well. Very good. Enemies killed by Spider Butt spawn friendly blue spiders. Spider Butt's a good item, so actually that's a big buff by it. Early game gonna be very, very good. Matchbook can now drop the Matchstick Trinket. I've seen this already, so definitely does do it. Not that I would expect any of these to be wrong, but that's a fun change, you know. Bombs are definitely, bombs and keys are much rarer in Repentance right now, so getting more of them is good. Converter now only costs 1 soul heart to use, previously costed 2. I'm interested in this because there was a game break involving Converter, so making it even easier feels a little wacky, but that's okay. Increase the damage of magic fingers. Formula is now damage times 2 plus 10. Previously it was damage times 2, and it ignores the flat plus 40 bonus from Ipecac. So a little bit of a buff, a little bit of a nerf, but the buff is still pretty good. Adding plus 10 to the damage does make that a better item for sure. Mom's Lipstick grants more range than before and spawns a random heart. Mom's Underwear spawns 3 to 6 blue flies. Mom's Heals deals 12 damage to enemies that come in contact with Isaac. Mom's Pearls gives a soul heart, and Mom's Purse gives a trinket. So basically all of the mom items receive the buff. And what we won't see in this video is that some of those are now also, I mean 4 of those, not Mom's Purse, I think, are now all in the golden chest pool as well. So you get these better upgrades now a little bit more regularly, which is good. Increase the amount of spiders spawned from Box of Spiders, Spider Baby, and Infestation. That just makes those items even better. Box of Spiders at 4 to 8 spiders from it is an insane buff, man. That's an insane buff. Blue spiders are good. They did get nerfed in Repentance. They're down from 2.5 times damage to just 2, I think. Or 2 to 1.5, I can't remember. But that's still a huge buff. That's a huge buff. Lucky Foot now guarantees positive pill effects, so this actually buffs Kane big time by basically giving Kane the PhD effect immediately when you spawn in as him. Just makes pills that much more valuable as Kane. Sister Maggie's tier damage has been increased up 1.5 to match Flash Isaac's damage. Brother Bobby is a little bit of an increased rate of fire, so basically those two items were identical before. Now they actually are different. Which is, I mean, that's good. You shouldn't have 2 of the same item with different effects, different graphics, right? Now they're actually legitimately different. Abel has an increased rate of fire, and if picked up by Kain, it shoots blood tears and the damage is increased to 5. So Abel is better. It's still bad in my opinion, but that's an interesting change. And I really like having specific items that when one character picks it up, it does something a little bit different. I've always kind of liked that idea, just to make certain characters feel different. Missing Page 2 now doubles all Blackheart and Necronomicon damage, and the room damaging effect that triggers at 1 heart remaining now also deals 80 damage instead of 40. I mean, that's really good for Missing Page 2. It wasn't a very good item before, the occasional proc of the Necronomicon effect, but now to make it, even deal more damage makes Missing Page 2 very strong. Butterbean knocks back enemies and projectiles with more force, and if a pushed enemy hits a rock or wall, they take 10 damage. I finally have to say that Butterbean is probably not the worst item in the game anymore, because you can actually make good use out of this for sure. And I hate it. I hate it. I like crapping on Butterbean, so sadly I cannot any longer. Marked only begins to continuously fire once the player has pressed an attack button. The target starts near Isaac instead of the room's center, and can be removed, and firing stops if the player presses the card/trinket drop item, or when they leave the room. So basically what they did with Marked is it now, one, you can see it better where it is, which was my main issue with it, and it's consistently you're able to find where it starts. And that makes Marked actually probably pretty good now, because it's also a huge rate of fire increase. So this is a really good change for Marked. Familiars now automatically aim at enemies when being commanded by King Baby. I'm gonna be honest with you, I've picked up King Baby like 4 times in my life because it was so terrible in Afterbirth Plus. So this does actually make it where King Baby is worth picking up. Best Bud's contact damage increased to 10 from 5. I mean, that's a doubled buff for Best Bud. Brown Nugget Flies have faster shot speed, and their damage has been increased by 1.5. Skatole prevents damage from Eternal Flies and Hush Flies. I mentioned this in a video like a year ago that it should, so it's fun to see that. Bob's Curse Bombs now leave behind a gas cloud that poisons enemies that move through it. They implemented the gas cloud for enemies in the game, so it's cool to see that being used for an item as well. Bob's Brain has an increased delay before becoming available, but the explosion damage has also been increased, so Bob's Brain just received a huge buff. It was already good, in my opinion. Now it's even better, more damage. Glass Cannon, this is a huge change. We saw this in the blog post. No longer removes the user's health. When you take damage after using it, then the cannon will break, and the damage the player received is increased by 2 hearts, but it won't kill you. And the player gains the anemic effect for the room. The cannon remains broken and unusable until it's recharged. It's about 4 rooms. This is huge because Glass Cannon for a good player now is it's insane, because even when you get hit, it's not gonna get rid of all of your health, right? So it's kind of insane. I think it's actually too strong in my opinion. I know that, people are mad about nerfs, but this is too big of a buff. Glass Cannon is like an insta-win item now, I think, but we'll see how it goes once we get it in game a little bit more. Dark Prince's Crown is an increased rate of fire now, and the bonus breaks the tier cap. That's fascinating. I read elsewhere that it's been decreased to a 1 heart deal instead of a 2 heart deal. There's not a lot of tier increases in Devil Pool, so that now, really makes it where there's a big rate of fire increase. It's interesting. Bombs no longer knock each other around when the player has fast bombs, so you can do some more controlled explosions. Dead Sea Scrolls displays the name of the given effect and no longer gives kamikaze. And I guarantee to you people are still gonna crap on this item, even though it was so freaking good in Afterbirth Plus, man. It's a great item, and it's even better now, so please take it. Kamikaze, increased blast damage and radius equal to Mr. Mega Bombs. Interesting. Minecrafter updated to allow remote detonation of the TNT by activating the item again. So you can do some pretty funky plays with this. I'm interested. I still think, look, it's a bomb in its nature, but It's fine. Damage tick rates on Little Chubby and Big Chubby have been increased. Little Gertie deals more significant damage and bounces off more enemies. Monster Manual familiars persist for the entire floor. And the charge time has been increased to 6. This is a pretty big change for Monster Manual, and makes it actually worth carrying, in my opinion. Having more familiars, especially since they've all been buffed, basically, makes that pretty good. We'll have to have some runs with it. Book of Belial's effect is now stackable. That's a pretty decent Judas buff. If you can get battery charges reliably, or you can carry an additional charge on an item, you can start to stack that. It's also crazy as Bethany if you get it, because you can basically, hold all your soul hearts and then pop like 8 Book of Belial's in a final fight and have a huge damage up. That's a fun time. Rosary now gives a Tears upgrade. Makes that item actually worth picking up, since most of the time you're like, ooh, I don't know, I don't really want the Bible to show up. Ghost Pepper shoots spectral blue flames that scale with Isaac's damage and luck. So it being spectral is cool. Inner Eye, less of a decrease in rate of fire and a tighter spread. We kind of saw that with the Keeper as well, because the Keeper starts with Inner Eye, and it's a better rate of fire and a tighter spread, which makes it a lot better. Boomerang pierces and has less downtime before throwing it. So that's interesting. I don't use Boomerang a lot, but it does make it a little bit better for sure. Scatter bombs pop out in a less erratic cluster. It makes it where you can't kill yourself as much with it, because it can sometimes be a little bit scary when you do it. Adrenaline is an increased higher damage bonus the more empty heart containers Isaac has. Negative now grants a passive damage upgrade, so a little bit, there's other incentives to go to the dark room now, since the red chests give you Devil Deal items. Now the negative giving a damage upgrade as well. If your damage is really bad on the run, it might be worth it to go to the dark room. A little bit more strategy there. Hot bombs have a greater increased contact damage and grant Isaac immunity to fire. Very interesting. Not bomb immunity, but immunity to fire. Wiggle worm, ringworm, and hookworm give you spectral tears. Umbilical cord now has a high chance to spawn a Gemini familiar for the room when Isaac takes damage. That's interesting for sure. Finger bone, chance to grant a bone heart has increased to 5% from 2%, which I know you're looking at that and you're like, oh, big whoop. That's still like more than double from before, so pretty good. Stem cell now heals Isaac's heart containers to 50% each floor. That's kind of interesting. And if he has 50% health or more, it does the previous effect of healing half a heart. So still, does its old effect, but does a little bit more as well. Glyph of Balance modifies room clear rewards. Teleport allows the player to influence the teleport direction by doing the direction he's moving when you activate it. That's really interesting, and I will forget that 1,000 times. But that is really interesting. You could get into, curse rooms, boss trap rooms, especially the new boss trap rooms you can sneak into. That's really fascinating. Void and Black Rune can now suck up items held over Isaac's head. So this allows usage on purchased shop/devil deal items. Void no longer activates upon picking it up, to allow more strategic activation for the single-use active. So basically you can suck up Diplopia, Mama Mega, but then they won't activate until you suck again. Which is actually, it's a really good change, because now you can carry those later into your game, right? Scissor's been redesigned. Stationary head is now affected by Isaac's stats and attack modifiers, and the body spews out blood shots. Charge has been increased because of that, because it is more offensively strong than before. Dr. Fetus bombs scale with the player's tier size and are now immune to knockback from their own explosions. So that makes Dr. Fetus actually worth taking. I never liked it because of the fact you could blow yourself up with it, but now there's close to no chance to blow yourself up with it, which is huge, and the damage has been increased. I mean, Dr. Fetus got a huge buff here. We will hop into the game and we'll see how that one looks here in a little bit, but that's a huge buff. Kidney Bean, bigger effect radius, no longer deals damage to the enemies it's charming. Kidney Stone, no longer a speed downgrade. Explosive tears deal damage upon impact. That's interesting. I didn't actually know that they didn't before, but I guess I guess they didn't. So that's interesting. Where am I? I just scrolled and I lost all the stuff. D10 attempts to reroll enemies into enemies of similar health. D10 was really bad, so that's good. Ipecac explosion size scales with tier size. Very scary, especially because there's some new tier size up items in the game, so you could run into some wacky scenarios with that. Technology beam now scales with damage, so the size of the beam, which is interesting. There's some wacky thick beams that we can get now. Libra's damage and fire rate formulas have been adjusted, likely to make them better, since before, you know, certain things would just basically dump a lot of speed into Libra, a lot of range into Libra. We still don't know what that formula is, and I would love to know, but we don't. Tier Detonator has a timed recharge instead of a one-room charge, so now you can pop it multiple times in the same room. Very, very strong, to be honest with you. That'll be very good. Pony's charge time has been reduced to 2. The ram damage has been increased to damage times 4 plus 28 instead of the static 40. I guess if you have lower damage, that will not, but most of the time that's going to be better for you. And the charge direction now allows for a minor amount of control, so pretty big buff. This is the buff that I just don't understand, dude. This is crazy. So White Pony has been reduced to 2 from 6. And the beams of light now trail behind Isaac when charging it. So you can really wipe rooms with this. It's pretty strong, man. It's pretty strong. I think that the charge time could be increased a little bit on it. Friendly Ball's charge time's been reduced. Walking over the thrown ball after capturing an enemy immediately recharges it. So you can basically throw it and throw the enemy in the same room, which is good. Bob's Rotten Head reduced to 2. Damage increased to 185. It's a 3 times damage buff. It's insane. It's insane. And it leaves the gas cloud. Box of Friends reduced to 3. Buffs Lilith. Flush's charge time has been reduced to 4. Necronomicon to 4. Bible to 4. My Little Unicorn to 4. Game Kid to 4. These are good items, man, that are just having their time reduced. Makes them even better. Invincibility effects with contact damage, such as Game Kid, now deal 20 damage every half second, from 40 damage every full second. So the potential DPS is unchanged, but it feels better, I guess, is what that means. And if an enemy is at 40 HP or less, they'll be killed immediately on contact. Chaos now assigns a weight to item pools. This was needed until they nerf shops and restock, so it's not as big of an issue anymore. But now it'll take the weight of the pool, so that pools with more items are more likely to be picked, which means that like your item room items, Devil Deal, Angel Deal, those are your 3 big ones. Shop, right? Those are your 4 big pools. You're not going to get the red chest, the bomb bum. You know, those pools are not going to show up as more with Chaos. The Infinity has been reworked. You press the drop button to cycle through to the next dice, so you can just choose whatever the hell you want. Makes the D-Infinity very strong, because it can just be anything. Could just be anything. But obviously the charge time now scales to the correct dice. But it basically just allows you to take your pick, which is really, really good. Nail's temporary damage bonus has been increased, but it now grants a half black heart instead of a full soul heart. So a nerf and the buff, right? But you know, this is kind of with the soul heart nerf in Repentance. There's a lot of soul heart nerfs. Odd Mushroom, this is the thick one, now gives a larger damage increase but a larger speed downgrade, so a little bit more risk reward. Tiny Planet's orbit now follows Isaac more closely, and to help with range, the orbit is now offset based on the current direction Isaac is shooting. So kind of actually changed that item a lot. I think we're going to need to see it to see really how it interacts a little bit more. Pyromaniac grants Isaac immunity to fire, but no longer protects against stomps or shockwaves. So that actually nerfs Pyromaniac a lot. The immunity to fire is nice, but stomps and shockwaves, having the immunity to that was really strong. And explosions now only heal for half a heart instead of a full. It was a pretty sizable nerf, but I think it's fine, right? I think it's fine. Abaddon now grants 2 black hearts. So not 6, but it converts all hearts to black hearts instead of removing them. So it's worth taking a bad instill. It's still, you know, good damage, right? But having those 6 black hearts was really nice. Really nice. So a little bit of a nerf there. Tech 2 no longer decreases Isaac's damage stat. Rate of fire is still halved, but the reduction now also applies to tier replacements such as Brimstone, Mom's Knife. So, I mean, Tech 2 killing your damage was horrible, and then the fact that it, you know, killed your rate of fire as well also sucked, but having it not decrease your damage makes Tech 2 a lot better. Isaac's Heart. This is a big change. It can now be repositioned easier. It tries to stay opposite of the direction Isaac's shooting. As he shoots, it'll charge up. When released, it'll repel all nearby enemies and release shots. Isaac's body gains a larger hit sphere to block shots with. It's also pushed less by enemies. When an enemy is in contact with Isaac's body, they take damage. And enemies now target Isaac instead of the heart. So there's a lot of buffs to Isaac's Heart here to make it better. However, they removed this. The item no longer prevents damage from self-harm mechanics / items. So things like Sharp Plug, things like Blood Rights, you don't have those infinites anymore, unfortunately. Sharp Plug's cost has been reworked to depend on the amount of charge bars missing. Takes half of a heart per charge. Can now be used on partially charged items. This nerfs it heavily, and the dreams of having the Sharp Plug rerolls are now dead. Because you need a lot more health to make it work. Satanic Bible still gives you the black heart, but it changes the boss item to drop a random devil deal that has to be paid for, which is a really, really big change. I like it. It's a lot more, you know, risk reward, but also has a chance to just be stupid strong as well. So in some ways it got better, in some ways it got worse. Kind of depends on your run, right? Shard of Glass causes Isaac to start bleeding when taking damage, slowly draining red health. While bleeding, he leaves a trail of creep, spews a fountain of uncontrollable blood shots. Effect ends when Isaac receives any kind of red heart healing, or when he runs out of red health to use. So this is actually a really good synergy with things like Horror Babylon now, right? Because you can kind of just pour all your red hearts out. Fun synergy there. Krampus's head deals less damage, but the charge time has been reduced to 3. I'm sorry, I'm moving fast. There's so many changes. Pinking Shears been reduced to 4, but the damage tick rate has been decreased. Speed of the body now depends on the player's speed stat, and if the player can fly, the body can fly as well. So a lot of interesting buffs despite the damage being reduced. Obviously, the charge time also being reduced means you can use it more, so it's good. Proptosis is no longer a damage multiplier. Tier damage is still determined by distance, so at point blank it will do more damage than previously, but then it scales down linearly. So that's interesting. Not having damage multipliers in the game, you know, people will say what they will, but that is interesting. Bloody Lust damage bonus has been adjusted, so you can see the order there. I didn't really know that it goes to plus 33% for those last 3, but I think that this is maybe better because you get more damage, you know, early on, I guess. Blank card now only works with cards, so no rune, and then the charge time is dependent on the held card. That's rough. It's a huge nerf to blank card. A lot of people are gonna hate this. I think it's probably good for the game, but it's a huge nerf. Placebo's charge time is the same, dependent on each held pill, and it updates with each activation, so things like, you know, Balls of Steel are going to be a lot higher than something like Puberty. Still interesting, for sure. Virus's poison effect no longer drops black hearts. This is also we're going to see this again later. Serpent's Kiss has been the same. Maw of the Void, Athame, they all no longer drop black hearts. Kinda crazy. We'll see that later. The minus 0.1 speed downgrade has been changed to a speed upgrade though. So the virus is worth picking up even though it doesn't do the black heart effect anymore. And you can see the damage that it now does. Soy Milk Tears no longer have knockback, man. This is a huge change and makes Soy Milk actually like crazy good. It was pretty good before, but it's crazy good now. Very, very fun change. Stopwatch now slows down all enemies once again, but it's a less drastic effect. So they changed this in another version of Isaac. It used to be when you picked it up, everything slowed down to like a snail's speed, and it was an insta-win item. Then they changed it where it only does that when you get hit. It'll slow them all down. Now it slows them all down again, but it's a little less, which is good. I think that's good. Dark Bum has a chance to drop pills, cards, or runes. That's rough. That's rough. Dark Bum's been nerfed to oblivion. Say goodbye to Dark Bum. He's just not good as much anymore. He's still fine, right? Dropping pills, cards, and runes is fine, but he ain't gonna fuel your run anymore. Tarot Cloth now only buffs tarot cards, not runes. Once again, hurts things like Yara, but I still think that's good. Red Candle Flames time out after 10 seconds and automatically extinguish. No longer block player attacks or get extinguished by them. Notched Axe now functions as a melee attack, breaks rocks and damages enemies in its path. Limited amount of uses per floor, decreasing with every hit that connects with a rock/enemy. This is fascinating to now have an item turn you into a melee attacker. Kind of fun, actually. And it's a shop item now, so you get to see it a little bit more often. I like that change a lot. Little Horn's tier effect isn't piercing anymore, but it can summon Big Horn's hands to slap bosses for extra damage. So you get to have Little Horn do more for you. It's still an insta-kill on regular enemies, but you get to have it do more damage on bosses as well. And the animation's really fun. I've seen it. We had it. It was very enjoyable. Locusts of War now have smaller explosions, which should result in less self-damage. I don't take 7 seals because of that, so now I can actually take it again, which is good. Glowing Hourglass refunds certain resources it didn't have before and increase the charge time a little. You could do a lot of breaks with Glowing Hourglass. Now it's a little less break friendly. Deep Pockets no longer adds a pill/card slot, but it increases the money cap to 999. And when a room clears and you don't get rewards, it now spawns 1 to 3 pennies. This is a huge change and kind of makes things a little game breaky. I'm imagining some 2 of Diamonds actions, right? There's some funky stuff going on with Deep Pockets. I like that change a lot, actually. It's very, very fun. Acid Baby's pill drop rate reduced to every 6 to 7 rooms instead of 2 to 3. Upon using a pill, all enemies take 10 damage and become poisoned for 6 to 7 ticks. So definitely an incentive to use the pills in rooms with enemies, even though you don't get the pills as often anymore. Telekinesis, more downtime between being able to activate it again. Now repels nearby enemies. Enemy shots retain their properties, so like Ipecac shots, things like that. That's a fun change. I like that. Book of the Dead has been increased to a 6 charge instead of 4. Book of the Dead was broken as hell, man. So that is a good change for sure. Reduce the amount of speed from Roid Rage. Reduce the amount of speed from growth hormones. That sucks. That sucks. I'm not sure they needed to do that, but especially Roid Rage because it's not that good of an item anyway. It was good for the speed. That sucks. Lead Pencil no longer deals double damage on the tier barrage. That's probably a good change. Lead Pencil was kind of busted, so I think that's good. Remove the double damage multiplier on Mongo Baby attacks. It's fine. The fact that Familiars got buffed, I think that's fine, or else Mongo Baby would have been kind of insane, to be honest. Tech Zero now deals 30% of the player's damage stat instead of 100. Nerf Tech Zero to Oblivion. It's a fun item still, but it definitely is not as strong as what it was. I think that it probably could have been 50% or maybe 75. 100 it was strong, but 30 is a big nerf. Sharp Straw is now only able to generate half red hearts. Previously it generated half soul hearts if the player had no heart containers. Once again, nerfing soul heart generation, and it ignores the Ipecac damage because, I mean, it's just strong. Piercing shots no longer damage segmented enemies such as Larry Jr. So just you're not gonna just blast through Larry Jr. And pin and things like that as much as before. Full run reroll effects now remove any heart containers and transformations if you lose the items associated. So you're not gonna do the reroll the D100 like 6 times, get spun, guppy, and everything else, and then keep them for the entire run. It's a nerf for sure, but I think it's actually really good for the game. Some people are gonna be pissed about that, but I think that's good. Damage tick rates for Smartfly, Hushy, and Blue Baby's Only Friend have been decreased. Blue Baby's Only Friend could carry all of your runs, so it's probably good. Little Brimstone, unable to start charging until he is finished attacking, and the damage has been decreased. He's still pretty good for the record, but it has been decreased. He's been nerfed a little bit. He's still good. I want to make that well known. He's still good for sure. Most orbitals have decreased collision size and they rotate quicker. This mainly just nerfs where if you get Cuba Meat, a good player can just win with Cuba Meat. It's a lot harder now. Host Hat no longer protects against stomps and shockwaves. Once again, you know, that was the nerf we saw earlier to Pyromaniac. Just basically redesigns those to not be counted as explosions anymore. Empty Vessel requires the timer to reach a 20-second interval twice in a room before triggering the invincibility. That's a huge nerf. Because sometimes you just walked in and you had it. So you can still get invincibility every room with patience, but you gotta wait longer. Electricity arcs generated from Jacob's Ladder now have maximum range unless chained through enemies, and they can't deal extra damage to the enemy being hit by the tier. Sure. Brimstone beam duration reduced and has a little bit less damage, and no longer gains bonus damage from Tammy's Head, Sad Bombs, or Varicose Veins. I don't agree with Brimstone being nerfed. I think that Brimstone's one of those items that's so iconic to the game that it shouldn't be nerfed, but it is good to have it nerfed for the game. I disagree with it. Mom's Knife, default thrown range reduced. Bonus damage gained from charging is now removed much more quickly. Mom's Knife is still an insta-win item, so don't really think that this is killing it. Maw of the Void no longer comes with a damage upgrade and no longer generates black hearts. A lot of people are pissed about this. Maw of the Void is still excellent, so don't really, it's still very good. I know it doesn't come with a damage upgrade, it's still very, very good. Athame no longer generates black hearts. Serpent's Kiss no longer generates black hearts. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Miter, 33% chance to drop red heart drops into soul hearts instead of 50. Once again, soul heart drop nerf rate, man. It just keeps going. Relic generates soul hearts less frequently. Rune Bag generates runes less frequently. Tech X damage now calculated based on the charge. So you can end up having where Tech X is nerfed, right? But you can still have it as the same if you use max charge on it. And the max ring size has been reduced. So it's kind of a buff and a nerf. I think that having the max ring size reduced is actually good for the game. And I think that that's less of a nerf than it sounds. Shots dissipate more quickly when coming in contact with walls. It's a nerf. It's still one of the best items in the game. So don't, once again, don't rage about Tech X, Brimstone, Mom's Knife. Those are just nerfs to make it where you don't just like pick it up and then you turn off your brain. They'll still win you the run if you just pay an ounce of attention. Most bomb modifiers now are chance-based when used with Dr. Fetus or Epic Fetus. This just, kills some of the game breaks, which is fine. That's completely fine. Incubus deals 25% less damage as characters other than Lilith, and now affected by the player's range and shot speed stats. 2020 has also had the damage reduced by 25%, so it's keeping those kind of standard with each other. They're still good though. Like, don't get it twisted. They're still good. Holy Mantle now has significantly less invulnerability frames when you lose it. So Holy Mantle is still a free hit in a room. It's really strong, so don't say a word to me. It's still very strong. Damage from Razor Blade and Blood Rights now ignores the invincibility effects similar to IV Bag. It's a pretty interesting change because it iframes. Humbling Bundle. Change should be chance-based instead of guaranteeing every pickup. Humbling Bundle was broken, so I'm fine with that. Reduce Crack Crown stat bonuses to 20% instead of 33%, and remove the independent tier upgrade. So once again, Crack Crown will not be the best trinket in Repentance, in my opinion. The tier bonus is what made it so good. Now it's not there. Lucky Rock, 33% chance to drop a coin instead of 100 for each rock destroyed. Once again, good change. Lucky Rock was broken. Flat Penny, Burnt Penny, Bloody Penny now have a 25% chance to drop extra pickups. It was 50, so good change. In my opinion, even though you get them a little less, it's a good change. Moving Box has a cap of 6 held items or pickups. It was unlimited before. And packing up chests/items from challenge rooms now starts the ambush. So you can't just get in, grab the items, leave, and then pop it. Which is good. Moving box was another very broken item that you could really do some interesting game breaks with. I think it was complicated to understand, so I think that maybe they could have kept it as is, and just, people that really cared about breaking with it, they can break with it. But holding 6 items and pickups still allows you to break with it. It's just, you got to be a little bit more judicious with how you do things. Restock now exponentially increases asking price. And no longer spawns the random pickups, but who cares because it increases the asking price. That's rough, man. That's rough. You will never have a restock game break ever again, in my opinion. Which is fine, but with the shop nerf, it's a little like, the restock was really broken because of shop rerolls, right? Now you don't get as many shop rerolls, so it's not that big of a deal anymore. I think that restock, it just, I don't know. I think that one should have stayed. But that's just my opinion. Mr. Me no longer restocks shops when stealing from them. Obtaining more than one Steam sale does not make items free, but it reduces their price. This is why I think restock should have stayed, for the record. Yes, double Steam sale restock was very broken, but it's not broken anymore, because Steam sale was changed, and I think that that's a good change. The Steam sale change is good. I don't like the restock change, though. Random shop sales for further reduced prices will no longer occur with Steam sale. Scapular won't grant a soul heart if the player is attempting to proc it with certain heart donation mechanics such as IV bag. Just basically nerfing soul heart generation yet again. Alga's rune decreased to 20 seconds from 30. Alga's rune was very broken. And damage upgrades and other tier size increases don't increase tier size quite as much as before. So that's all of the changes to items. It took me 41 minutes to talk through all of these, for the record. We're going to hop into the game, and I'm just going to show you a couple of these that I think were interesting and maybe were a little bit confusing to see. But other than that, yeah, let's hop into the game. Okay, here we are. In game, we're gonna check out a couple of these new item balances. I've got like 12 or 13 here that I wanted to take a peek at a little bit closer. First one we got is Hallowed Ground. So this item in Afterbirth Plus, it used to, when you got hit, it would put down a poop, and then your rate of fire would increase a little bit near it. Now the poop is more durable, and Isaac's damage is increased as well, and tears are homing. So it's gonna look something like this, and this is actually like, this is a sizable tears up. You can see that when we leave the ring, the damage increase is pretty big. It's pretty big, and the tier increase is absolutely massive. So let's see. I mean, look, this is how it would probably look using this kind of thing in a room. The homing tiers as well start to get a little useful, even right here. I mean, look at how good the homing is now. I mean, it legitimately is useful. I've got infinite charges turned on, so we can basically, I mean, we can't pop it anymore in this room, but you see how it works. Pretty damn good. Next on our list to look at is Strange Attractor. So Strange Attractor now pulls enemies in with less force at first, but then increases the magnetization as they travel. So I'm interested to see just how much this actually does affect things. I'm gonna be honest with you, it doesn't really seem to be doing much. I mean, it's pulling them in a little bit, but it's definitely, I mean, it's not as drastic as it used to be before. I mean, this was a detrimentally terrible item to take for your run. So it's definitely, I mean, it pulls them. It's just, it pulls them so much less than before. So yeah, I mean, look, it's probably a buff to the item to have a little bit less chaotic pull around the room. I think it's intriguing, and it's definitely one that, given a couple of new synergies, might end up being actually useful these days. Okay, next on our list we've got Holy Water, which has been changed to be a thrown familiar. Now, similar to Bob's brain, when we hit an enemy, it's going to crack, and then the puddle that it creates is going to freeze enemies, in addition to then continuously damaging them. So this is a pretty strong item now, to be honest, and you're gonna see that momentarily if we can get it to actually hit one of these dudes. How about one of you up there? There we go. So it breaks and then collapses, and then starts to deal a lot of damage to enemies, and then after a room or so, it comes back. You can see it's back now. We can try to nail it on one of these guys. I'm not even sure. Yeah, I mean, that did do damage to him, even though he's a flying enemy. I kind of wanted to test this in the boss room, because I feel like that's a pretty more likely scenario for this being pretty good for us. So if we chuck it at him, it freezes him, and then it starts to do a bunch of damage to him. And in my opinion, this is pretty strong, man. I mean, if we can get Gemini to freeze, right? So he's going to freeze. We hit him. It freezes him. I mean, it just cranked him, right? It just cranked him. So it's a pretty interesting item. Now, stationary enemies make it really, really shine, for sure. Huge buff from the Afterbirth Plus version of the item. Okay, next on our list, we've got Game-Breaking Bug. So this has also been changed to be a thrown familiar now that you activate by double tapping your shooting button. So you can see here that I'm just firing normally. If I double tap, then it throws it out. If we hit any consumables, it'll re-roll them. So I've got a key here. We can throw it. It re-rolls it into a bomb. And now if we clear a room real quick, we can come back, and then it'll spawn back after we complete a room. He's back, and we can re-roll it again. So really interesting. It also re-rolls enemies. So if we clear another room here, a little bit of an unfortunate room to be stuck in clearing, since it's a big room. But we can clear rooms. This is Isaac. We're capable. Tried to get the explosion. We're still capable. Okay, he's back. Let's find an enemy in this room, and okay, let's use. You know what? We can re-roll the stonies, right? Never mind, we can't. So I guess some enemies you can't re-roll, but we re-rolled that guy into a little gish guy. So it's interesting. It's definitely going to be a little bit more of a min-maxy item that you can utilize to do a little bit of extra re-rolling on your floor. I like it a lot. Next on our list is Marked, and Marked has now been changed where you only start firing once you press the attack button in a room, and that's actually really good, because things like any items like an ipecac, right, could immediately harm you when you entered the room, so now there's a little bit of a way to prevent that. But then once we start firing, you can see that we now have a easy way to tell where our marked cursor is. It also always starts on us, so if we enter into a room, we whenever we want to shoot, it comes right out from us. You still have the great rate of fire from it, and we can just, you know, kind of utilize it to wipe out enemies. That higher rate of fire that Marked gives you is really good, and now with the increased vision that you can actually see with Marked, you're going to find that it's a little bit easier to use it. There's also, obviously, you can turn on the mouse controls for it in the options of the actual game file options. It's not available in the options menu. But my biggest issue with Marked is I can never tell where my marked cursor was. Now you can tell pretty easily, so I think this is an item that I'll actually end up picking up a heck of a lot more, because the increase in the rate of fire is so damn good. It's so damn good. Okay, next on our list is Teleport, which is an active item that used to just teleport you randomly whenever you would use it. Now we can actually influence which direction it teleports us. So if we're moving in a certain direction when we activate, it'll teleport us. So theoretically, we could get into this cursed room without taking damage, right? So if I'm moving and then I hit it, we went in the complete opposite direction. So really glad that this is working according to plan. Let's test it a little bit more. Let's get some item charges. If we try to tell, okay, so that time it worked. Now if I'm moving up and teleport, it brought me to a completely different area of the map. So maybe the influence is not, you know, a guarantee on it, but it's more, you know, there's a chance for you to influence the direction that you teleport. It definitely does not work super well though. Let's try that again, right? So if I'm moving straight down, teleport, it brought me all the way to the end of the floor, man. So something still feels a little bit off with this, but it's an interesting idea. And I would love if this was actually the case, because I feel like impacting the ways that you teleport could be really, really important. I mean, this is completely random, teleporting us to the secret room. Maybe I'm missing something with this, but yeah, it doesn't appear to be working the way that they necessarily intended it to. Okay, next on our list is the D-Infinity, and the D-Infinity has been reworked where you can actually choose which die you want to use at any given time. So you can see right now that it's on the D1. If we hit left control, or whatever your drop button is on controller, you can see that we shift through the various dice in the game. So if we really wanted to use a D6 at the current time, we just swapped the D6. I think this is a really, really fascinating change. Let's grab like, sure, let's grab the D12, right? Come in here, we pop it. So now it's been changed to be the charge of the item that we used. So the D12 has a 3-room charge, so now it's a 3-room charge. Then the next time we pop it, it'll become whatever the charge is of that dice that we had. So this is a really, really strong item, in case that was not abundantly clear. I mean, it's basically every dice item in the game, but you also get to straight up choose when you use that dice item, which, I mean, that part of the D-Infinity was sometimes you got the D8, the D12 over and over and over. Now being able to choose, it genuinely is one of the best items in the game, and I mean, the unlock for it was difficult, I believe, so it kind of makes sense to have it be a little bit stronger. I like it. It's a good change. Okay, next up we got Isaac's Heart. So Isaac's Heart has been redesigned a little bit, so that it always tries to stay opposite of where we're shooting. So if we shoot, you know, down, it starts moving above us. We start shooting left, you're going to see it tries to get to the right of us. Wherever we move, it kind of jitters around to ensure that it's staying out of the way of whatever we are fighting. You can also see that as we shoot, it charges up. We can release it, and it releases a little tear burst, right? So let's get near, and then the tear burst kind of jolts away enemies a little bit as well. So we can get nice and close. That time we got hit, but I can get nice and close and do a little bit damage with Isaac's Heart. The item is still, look, it's still risky for sure to pop. Yeah, and I'm out here not really playing with it how you should, because you want to use Isaac's body to block, and you can also now deal contact damage with Isaac as well, so you can kind of just slam into enemies. It's a lot stronger than it was before, man. It's a lot stronger than it was before. If you're really, really good with Isaac's Heart, it's going to be one of those items I think that people learn to love, because it could end up being like one of the strongest items in the game for certain players. I mean, if you can really learn how it moves and how it impacts certain enemies, it could end up being insanely good. I like it. It's one of those changes that I don't think I expected at all, so that's fun. Okay, next up we got Tiny Planet, which Tiny Planet has been reworked so that the orbit of the tears now more tightly follows Isaac. And then to help with the range, the orbit offset has now been based on the current direction that Isaac is shooting. So before, you used to fire right to have the tears start to the left. Now you can see that if we fire right, the tears actually start to the right, and then they start to orbit a lot closer to me on the back of me. This is going to take some getting used to, for sure, because this is very, very different than how Tiny Planet worked before. And, I mean, you can kind of also do some crazy stuff if you just, like, spam in a circle your tears. You can get some wacky combinations going. Let's see how this would look in combat. You really have to figure out how to utilize this. It's still gonna be one of those items that is a little bit synergy dependent, I would say, to make it be really good. And I think there's also just a component of it that is, I'm used to the old one, right? I've played a lot of hours of Isaac with the old one, so to have a core item of the game changed is tough. It's tough to figure out how to fully utilize it now that we're dealing with a almost entirely brand new item, right? So it's fun. I mean, it's a good change. It's fun. Any new changes like this, I enjoy. Everyone else might not enjoy, but by golly, I enjoy. Okay, next up we've got Notched Axe, which is a active item that used to just allow you to open secret rooms, more or less. Now it functions as a melee attack that breaks rocks and damages enemies in its path. I don't know what to even think about this. It says it has a limited amount of uses per floor, which decreases with every hit that connects with a rock or enemy. So let's just see what happens right here, right? Okay, so now I'm holding a pickaxe, and if I kind of go right here, right? So we smacked. Oh, you can see the you can see it going down as we're smacking. So we're basically acting as the Forgotten here in terms of how we swing. But you can see that our charges for it are going down, and we retain it between rooms. Dude, it does a decent amount of damage though. And it, destroys rocks, destroys pots and stuff. So now it's out. And I'm gonna assume that we maybe cannot recharge it for the floor. So limited use. I feel like it's the kind of active item, yeah, we don't recharge. It's the kind of active item where I'm gonna really struggle to carry this as a long-term item on my run. But I feel like it's one of those things where, early on in the game, getting it as an Eden start type item, right, could really allow you to min-max on your first floor. I actually think this change is fun. Notched Axe I would never pick up before. So this is a little unique little change. I like it. Okay, now for one of the ones I'm most excited about. Soy milk no longer causes drastic knockback. So now the knockback is kind of removed from soy milk. You still have the beautiful soy milk barrage. We can also go above the tier cap with soy milk as well. So we'll test that shortly too. But let's try to hit some enemies and let's see how the knockback goes. I feel like these enemies are not exactly the best to test this with, since they wouldn't really have any knockback effect on them to begin with. But like this guy, you can see there's no knockback, so all of our shots are hitting him, and it's just doing the appropriate amount of damage, which albeit is still slow, like very small in terms of the damage, but the rate of fire is what keeps you going on this one. It's fun, dude. I love soy milk. I mean, look, I've made a lot of videos about soy milk at this point. So having to go back and now, have my item that I enjoy be strong is awesome. Let's try to break it a little bit more though, because it has been changed where the tier cap, the tier cap can be broken with it. So let's add another 10 torn photos. You can see that our rate of fire has gone up another 12. Okay, yeah. So we're a freaking barrage. Let's see what happens if I add another 20. Okay, so it appears there is still a cap for this. Our shot speed is also, I mean, absurdly high. So that's part of the main issue that we're having here. But okay, I mean, it's doing a little bit of knockback now. I think that's because the shot speed is so freaking high. Let's try to grab a tears up that doesn't do shot speed. Okay, you're getting some good good debug console action. So let's go sad onion, right? Because sad onion does not increase your shot speed, so we can just do a repeat on that 10 times. We now have the max tiers that it appears that we can get, but the shot speed is the same. And yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good barrage, I would say. Very, very fun. This also then allows you to bring in synergies like Brimstone, right? Which allows you to get this, which, I mean, how could you not be happy with this? This is just extraordinarily concerning as an item. Is it good? I don't know, but what if you add, like, I don't know, Sacred Heart to it? Then what happens? then you just start, you know, wiping entire rooms because the homing is pretty damn strong. So soy milk has definitely it's seen a buff in this update for sure, and I'm excited to continue to mess with it over the course of Repentance because it's kind of crazy. Next up, we've got Stopwatch, which has been changed to basically go back to its rebirth effect. As we said, Stopwatch is in Afterbirth Plus. When you get hit, it slows down the room. Now it just slows down everything again. You can even hear the music is nice and slowed down. But this effect is a lot less drastic. So we can come in and you can see that everything is slowed for sure. But it's slowed not to the same alarmingly slow speed that it was before. I still think this is an insta-win item, and this absolutely buffs it as an item, because I think it received a pretty sizable nerf in Afterbirth Plus. I thought it was a good nerf, but this brings this item back to be very, very good. Next up, we've got Shard of Glass, which now has been completely changed, that when Isaac starts taking damage, when he takes damage, he's going to start bleeding, which is going to slowly drain our red health over time. And then while bleeding, he leaves some creep, and he spews a fountain of controllable blood shots. So I am really interested to see what happens with this. I want to actually I added some soul hearts, but I also want to add Whore of Babylon here, because I think this is going to be a good synergy, and I want to test it. So hit me once. Now we're throwing out some controllable blood shots, and you can see that. I mean, this is actually like, it's very good in my opinion. And we're still going. The shots are coming out, but we're not losing any health. Now I think you can see we're starting to lose some health. Okay, so it'll definitely start decreasing our health. This persists for throughout rooms. Okay. That's really fascinating. This is a huge damage upgrade, man. I mean, look at the amount of damage that we're doing to these enemies. Being able to control the blood spurt that's a huge buff. This made this item like significantly stronger than what it was. Obviously it kills your health, but in a soul heart build, which albeit harder to do in Repentance, God, this is going to be so good. And then I continue to reiterate that having something like Whore of Babylon, where you can guarantee kind of chonking away your red hearts to get into the Whore of Babylon state, is just going to make this even better. I want to see us get into the Whore of Babylon state with this item. So give me one hot second. I just took some HP. Let's give ourselves Potato Peeler real quick, and I'm just gonna crank away a little bit of health. Let's keep firing. You know what? We can go down to Downpour and keep firing. I'll just start a whole freaking run right now. Why not? Little bit of cheating going on, but obviously you can't even get achievements with the debug console anymore, which is it's a very good change for the record. Okay, here we go. Crank down to half a heart. We're in Whore of Babylon now. And now you can see, I mean, the damage is so freaking good. It's through the roof. This is a really strong item now. I don't know how else to word it. It's actually become very, very strong for an item that was, in my opinion, not very good before. So now you can see we've cranked away all of our red hearts. It has stopped the effect, and we are now not bleeding, and we're back to normal. Now, if we take some more health, we're still back to normal. I mean, this is hilarious in this regard. But yeah, I mean, it's really good. I like it a lot. Fun change. And finally, I want to check out Dr. Fetus, which now has where the bombs cannot be knocked back from their own explosion. So we can just keep on firing bombs. Now, this is not a great example because our rate of fire is so low, right? But we will never be able to knock back the bombs that we do. So if we add Torn Photo, for example, and get a little bit faster rate of fire, normally this would be shooting the bombs kind of around the room. And it's definitely not anymore. Even if I added soy milk to this, now we're gonna throw out a lot of bombs, but they don't do any knockback, right? And the bombs shrunk, which I really, really like. And then if we add another soy milk, okay, that didn't do anything, but let's add another torn photo, right? And then maybe like another 10 torn photos. Now we fire out a lot of bombs, and then, I mean, like, what happens if we also make them sad bombs, right? Now we get a bunch of tears in the room, too, except the bombs also. Dr. Fetus no longer is an 100% chance of that happening. But maybe if we also have luck, right? Let's go and get some high luck. Then what happens? Does that scale with luck? It absolutely does. So now you start to see how some runs like this could get a little wacky over time. I think this is a great change for the record. Dr. Fetus was always a very, very risky item to take. Now it's fun. Now it's really fun, and I will have to take it in the nearby future. So that's going to do it for this little video about some of the changes made to Isaac. I know it's very long, and I apologize for that, but there's just been so many changes to items in the game. Let me know what you think are the best ones, what you think are the most controversial ones that you really don't like. I would love to have a conversation with all of you about it. Thanks much for watching, and you can check out my my Repentance series over on my channel. Every day right now, at least, we've got some Repentance videos going up as we explore everything there is to explore in the game. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.